Welcome to Keep Trucking Personal, where we invite you to explore the heart and soul of our company, Kiwi Brothers Trucking. Through engaging storytelling, insightful market updates, and vibrant energy, our podcast reflects our culture, values, and achievements. Whether you're a team member or industry enthusiast, join us to build connections, foster growth, and inspire excellence. Discover why we're more than just a company. We're a community, a catalyst for positive change, and a home for those aspiring to be part of something extraordinary. The pre-trip is complete and engines ready. We're set to hit the road on the Keep Trucking Personal podcast. Let's go.
Welcome to Keep Trucking Personal. My name is Tyler Kiwi, and I am your host. Today, I have somebody that's very familiar with our trucks and how they operate. Somebody I guess I would call a specialist in trucking, Bob Bodin. Bob, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Bob, I always enjoy getting somebody that has a deep background in trucking because there's so many stories, and trucking has changed so much from what it was when you were driving or maybe when you started driving to what the trucking industry looks like now. And I think a lot of people, they just love to hear those stories. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you live, and so everybody can get to know you, because you speak to a lot of our drivers on a daily basis already.
Okay. Well, let me start. I'm a third generation son of a commercial fisherman. And that's where the trucking came in, because my father had a truck to move the fish.
That was in Wisconsin, though, in Bayford or Ashland?
In Ashland is where the fishery started. We purchased the Booth Fish Company in 1959, 57, somewhere in there, and moved the operation to Bayfield.
Okay.
In the 60s, we purchased McCarty Fish Company in Fort Francis, Ontario, and we built a brand new fish plant in the late 60s in International Falls.
Well, so you guys were big time.
Well, for a little family company, yes. It originated with four brothers that came over from Norway.
Okay.
Adolf, Ivar, Elmer, and Oscar. All the brothers came over, and we're all commercial fishermen up and down the shoreline. The family business still exists. It's in its fourth generation.
Oh, really?
Yep. The original ice house, where we would go out on the lake and harvest the ice to keep the fish cold all summer.
Yeah.
And we had the ice house is still there in existence, where everything was covered in sawdust. But after 1972 is when I really I got into trucks. I remember going across the Arrowhead Bridge and looking out the window when my dad would drive the truck across, and the boards were going floppity, 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 flop. And I'm like, is this safe?
So tell us the Arrowhead Bridge exactly. Where that is.
I believe that is the bridge that is down off of the Bong. If you're headed towards Duluth, and if you look off to the left, because that center point swung.
Okay, yep. Yeah, it's still there. I know what you're talking about.
Yes. And that was the bridge.
Isn't it a train bridge now?
The Blotneck was being built. Now, I'm not the longest employee here, but I'm probably one of the oldest. So I remember when the Blotneck opened, my father and I were up in International Falls and came back.
Mm-hmm.
We came over the bridge, and the next thing we knew, we were going back over. He went right around that ramp and went right back up on the bridge. 3 times he did that, and I'll never forget that.
Well, and it's kind of interesting. So like I said earlier, you've seen a lot of the industry change. You've seen Duluth, Superior grow, and Bayfield, all these.
Oh,
the bridge that you're talking about, the Blotneck Bridge, now is getting ready to be torn down and replaced.
Isn't that something?
That's kind of like to see things evolve and grow and build and then get taken down intentionally and now be rebuilt again.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that you would need a bigger bridge, but this area needs more.
It's amazing to see the changes in the Twin Ports.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know where to start. I used to have our Thermo King repaired over by the Arrowhead truck stop.
Yeah.
That's when Jeff Foster had his first truck. He and his brother had 2 trucks there. Walco was there. I got into the Thermo King repair there, and I met a guy. His name is Earl Brayman, and he's still a good friend of mine. He ended up the head mechanic at Helver. I knew Bill Vingy. We used to buy his old Timpty reefers to haul fish.
Yeah.
Just so much history that I've seen happen.
Yes, you've watched all the companies, all of the trucking companies specifically, even in the Twin Ports grow. And when you say the household names that you just mentioned, just talk about those companies when they started at 1 truck or 2 trucks.
Sure. Yeah.
That's pretty unique to have witnessed that.
Yeah.
Kind of
was really a strong hub over there, the truck stop. There was Jerry's Cafe. Helver was there. Lakehead Leasing. Everything was in that 27th Avenue exit.
Yeah. Yeah, that was like the transportation
hub
of
the Twin Ports. Of Duluth.
Well, and then you had like so was the Western Cafe and all that, was that there for a long, long time? Like there.
Yeah, that was up more towards Grand, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, like, what was because with all the people around trucking, where was everybody going to eat, and like, what was the truck stop?
Right there. It was either Jerry Lee's for breakfast or it's over at the Arrowhead Truck Center.
Yeah.
Because you would go in there to have your truck repaired. You could walk up to the other end and sit down and eat.
Yeah. So that's where it was a one-stop shop. Get your truck fixed.
The tire shop was there.
That's a little piece of history that we've never really uncovered, but that's something that comes up in every conversation, whether it's with my uncle Mark, my dad, anybody that you talk about the history of trucking in the Twin Ports.
Yeah.
If you've been around long enough, you've been to the Arrowhead, or you know what
International
Arrowhead
was there.
Yeah, all of it was right there. And that building's still there, but it's like an ABC, or isn't it like a construction people or something?
You know what? I haven't been down there in many, many years.
Yeah.
And Cummins was up there.
Yeah.
Cummins was behind. So everything was right there, whatever you needed. They had parts and chrome and this and that. Chrome, oh my gosh, the grain haulers would come in there.
Yeah.
Some of those trucks probably shouldn't have been on the road, but I can remember coming down the hill, and there's nothing more beautiful than seeing the lights of the Twin Ports at night, 1, 2 in the morning, but the lines of grain trucks.
Yeah.
If you didn't see that or experience that, you wouldn't understand it. But there would literally be 500 plus trucks a day underneath that bridge at night.
My dad talks about that a lot, but I never really. So the grain was a little bit before my time where it was booming like that. Because I remember
it was booming.
A lot of the trucks and people that we used to work with or that hauled for Kiwi or any of that did owner ops, there was the side kits. And they had side kits on a flatbed because you could haul grain in it still. Well, you laid paper down, on the edges to make sure you didn't leak any grain out, but you would load your side kit with grain coming back, but you could haul stuff out, or it was multi application. You could do many things with it, but my dad always kept talking about grain, and I never got to see the stuff you're talking about, but it was
unbelievable.
It was the hub. That's why there's so many big grain elevators.
Yep.
And there's just not that volume now. It's all train done by rail or and then they ship it over vessel. Volume.
So I've experienced a lot.
Yeah.
So I really rode in the truck with the drivers that my father had. Mm-hmm. Northland Transport, Art Amos.
Yeah.
I used to drool because he had cab over Kenworth, and that was my dad's good friend. And his son, Scott, was a dispatcher at the end for Helver. He was part owner with Timberline. He was, I've just been around trucking families and business. But I remember my dad said, we have to have our own truck. We can't rely on these. We never know, because we had Midwest Express out of Winnipeg, Manitoba coming in. And if the truck was late, there we sat.
And your fish is a perishable product.
Well, yeah, it's got to go. So we've seen all of that. And my dad said, no, we need a truck. Our first truck was a W9000 with a single axle, 318, 10-speed, air tag. Mm-hmm. Thought I was king of the road.
So tell us how you got your license.
Basically, it was my father's truck.
Yeah.
I did not need a chauffeur's license. When that law went into effect, I remember stopping at the Coop in Superior, and I thought, what do they want? well, see your license. And so I handed him my driver's license, and he goes, no, you need a chauffeur's license. I said, no, it's my dad's truck. Oh, they changed that law, he said. You need to go in and apply.
So did you get a ticket back then even?
No, was grandfathered in, and he said, well, go get your license,
Isn't that amazing? Like now there's so much liability on it. Everything is, I got to document it, right?
Yeah.
So you go through the scale in the old days of like, take care of this down the road. It seems like it's gone. And it's just, man, those days I wish existed still. It really sounded like the people in the scales and the DOT, anyone really, was really supportive of truck drivers.
Yeah.
And they understood what they were going through. And their families, I think, were a lot of blue collar, working in grain or had fun. So they understood what you guys were doing.
We were the white knights of the road.
Yeah.
I like to think that I was. Back then, that was something. I really got turned on to trucks. And then I went to college, played football for a year, came back, ran the blast freezer. My dad said, maybe we should get you some diesel education. We got trucks, you got the blast freezer, that D6 Cat that ran that. So I went to school in Sturgeon Bay, Northwest Tech College, and got...
Right in the water again.
Yeah.
You've been around fishing in water.
Yeah. And I'm a fish out of water if I'm not by the lake. So
I guess.
I actually took the trucks down there and we went through them and painted them up and just everything, tuned them up and brought them back. And so I would drive and, the business started to grow.
Yeah.
We were running 2 semi-trucks to Chicago a week. And up into, I loved running Minnesota. I loved going through the National Cutfoot Forest up 71 through North Ulm, International Falls, Baudette, Squaw Lake, Swan River truck stop at dusk, and all the grain trucks. And oh gosh,
even up and down.
Back then it was cool. And I remember going down to meet Louis Kemp at his house one Sunday afternoon. And he brought out Gino's pizza for hors d'oeuvre. And I'm like, man, we have that for supper. I remember riding in Louis' Excalibur down Superior Street in Duluth. Back then, Louis was the bookie for Bob Dylan.
Wow.
So I ran into Scott a lot over at Louis Kemp's in the fall for herring season and lutefisk.
So that's what I was going to ask. The main fish, was it salmon?
No, salmon is a sport fish. Our main fish today is herring and whitefish. Lake trout is minimal because they're on a quota tag. Smelt we don't see that much of now. The bay has been closed for the sport industry. So, it's like everything changes. There used to be 21 licensed commercial fishermen. Today there's 12. The state bought out those licenses and turned that quota over to the sport industry. So the industry has really shrunk. Really shrunk. And Bayfield has changed.
You could almost say it's the same type of story as trucking, right? Everything evolves, whether it's for good or bad. There's just changes necessary, and they follow the times. And
one thing I've learned is, in trucking, when it's good, it's great. There's nothing better.
Yeah.
And it can turn real bad in a hurry.
Yeah.
But you work the niche as long as it's there.
Yeah.
And it goes away. But something else always comes in.
Yeah.
So you just keep that drive. Yeah. I've been very fortunate of all my years, from hauling fish to I got into paper when both my brother-in-laws worked at a paper mill and knew the guy that hauled there, and he wanted out. And he says, Bob, you want to grow? He says, I'll give you my contract. I want out. Let's go.
Let's do it.
So I got into hauling paper. 4th of July weekend, Gateway Foods went on strike. Boy, that's back. I don't even remember when that was. My brother-in-law at the time, his family owned the IGA in Washburn. He calls me up. He says, Bob, you got a truck and trailer? I said, yeah. You have any problem going through a picket line? I said, no, are you coming with? He goes, yeah. So we went up in Gateway Foods, and we loaded up his dad's groceries. Small, short time later, I had 13 different grocery stores
that you were hauling to.
They went on strike. Nobody could get food. This guy will do it. This guy will. Hey, pretty soon I got to add another truck. Now I got 2 trucks. This guy got to back up just a little bit because I used to haul for Twin Ports Grocery out of Chicago. So we would haul fish down.
Yeah.
That happened when Bill Baker over in Duluth or Superior lost his authority. Back in those days, trucks were nothing. It was the authority.
Yeah.
That was the value.
Yeah, I remember my grandpa had authority, and that was how he was able to get drivers and trucks to haul for him, because if you didn't have authority, you didn't have anything.
So we got the temporary emergency authority. We got it transferred to us. I introduced me to the people at Twin Ports Grocery so we could keep that flow heading north. He had leveraged everything and was going bankrupt.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of shafting Twin Ports, he said, Roger, here's an ideal situation. I'm doing what you could do. And so we did. And I had to learn, we used a lot of coffee to knock down that fish mill in the trailer. But, from there it grew. Yeah. And it's been unique.
So you lived the American dream, right? Been part of a business, helped grow it.
Yeah.
Boots, you had to bootstrap and get out there and do the work.
Learning the tariffs and bingo stamps and things changed in IFTA. I remember our IFTA number was 618. It was fascinating to see the change.
Yeah.
I got into Pomida, and I got involved with Werner Enterprises, or logistics. They gave me 20 trailers to use. So I was hauling paper down. I was hauling Pomida back. It was great.
Yeah.
And that was out of Milwaukee. Then they built a new hub in Lebanon, Indiana, and said, would you like to move us out of Milwaukee into Lebanon? And then we can give you out of Lebanon, we'll stage trailers and you can take them back to Wisconsin. So things evolve, they come.
Yeah, other businesses grow, and I like you said earlier, like in trucking, a lot of times when one door closes, another door opens. And,
that's right.
And it's not always the same freight, it's not the same customer, it's not the same lane, but it is very unique. There's been plenty of times, even in recent, where, not so much where like you lost a big customer or anything like that. I think we do pretty well with all our customers. We've never really had that big shakeup, but customer volumes have changed. Their sales have changed. And when you get used to a steady diet of this many loads per week, and then it goes away because they're not selling it or they change their product line, that happens a lot too. You always get that little swell in your throat, like, well, here we go again. And then something opens up or an opportunity presents itself. And that is a very unique part of the truck industry. And one of the favorite things that I enjoy about it is how different every day can be. The customers we serve, we get some calls that are like, really? Like that's how we're getting the call today for that much has got to be moved in the next 48 hours. Yeah, it's got to go, and we pride ourselves on trying to respond quick. But yeah, it is an interesting industry. And I guess I can say that it's very similar to even back then, like you're saying, customers are growing or shippers changing their lanes and you get opportunities that come your way and you can latch into it. And sometimes you ride it for a little bit, ride the tide, and it works and it sticks and it becomes a staple like in your diet. Or sometimes they just phase out. Hey, that was temporary and it's come and gone. But
it's all about building relationships.
Yeah, that is,
and trust.
That is one thing I think that this industry, and I talk about a lot in the name of the podcast and keeping it personal and the things we're trying to do. And when we get to what you're doing here is truly that it's a relationship driven industry. No matter how many computers and systems there are to do the pricing or the automation for this or that, there's still necessary needs of somebody to decide what's going to move, decide who's going to move it, decide how well they take care of that customer. We like to pride ourselves on being an extension of whatever customer we are. And we mean that. And for many customers we deliver, we're so familiar with their product and what goes on that our drivers almost are like salesmen for them. They're on the road salesmen for a customer that's not even writing their check per se.
Yeah.
But it's just very relationship driven. You can make or break a reputation. You can spend years building it and it can go down the tubes in just one bad instance. Like everything hinges on that. I think sometimes we get so caught up in the technology and what it's doing that we forget that people still crave somebody to answer the phone.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to know a live update, right? Like technology can give a lot of that instantaneous, but they still want to know, hey, what's your plan for this? How are you going to do it versus just a system or automated responses? That I think is a time that has not changed. A lot of the trucking and the grain or not, or cab over or not, or this bingo cards like you're talking about, that's definitely come and gone. The thing that stays the same though is the personal side of this industry and what it takes to be successful with a customer, as a driver, any of them.
It's had its ups and downs,
Mm-hmm.
We've had some mishaps. The largest one was in 2005 when we lost the shop.
Yeah.
It burned to the ground and half the fleet was inside.
So how many trucks did you guys have when that
I had
happened?
10.
10?
Yeah. I had 8 tractors and 2 straight trucks.
Talk about like we're talking dealing with the ups and downs. You're building your company.
One night.
You're building your company and
Yeah.
third generation or second. What generation was it for the
third.
fish? You were third generation for the fish. Third generation. So it's been ingrained in you. And now all of a sudden, like you said, overnight.
But we diversified. So there were 2 brothers, Roger, my father, and my uncle Richard. He had the sporting division over in Ashland. We sold boats and motors and snowmobiles and motorcycles. That's when I got into Triumph and Suzuki. I raced motocross and flat track. That's where I ended up meeting Kurt.
Yeah.
Racing after.
And I don't think he got to talk about his dirt. Was that ice racing or was that the dirt bike?
I raced ice ovals when I was in college down in Cedar Lake Speedway. We raced the stock car intermissions.
Yeah.
So we used to race up in Superior and then Ashland and then up to Proctor. That was a 3-ring thing. So, yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah. Well, so, I always like to talk about overcoming adversity and being and persevering through it and having a mindset. That's definitely something that sets you back on a personal basis. How did you get through that? And
back up one step before this. I lost my father in 1979 in a plane crash.
Oh.
He was on the bank board, and the whole bank board perished. So my first wife's father was on the same plane. You talk about changes.
Yeah.
Because I always admired my father. And when we went up to Lake of the Woods, we always took a beaver. And he went around and did his business, and I fished for walleyes on the pontoon until he got back and sat in the fuselage, and away we'd go to the next camp.
Yeah.
But that was his business and his love and his passion. Then I got into trucks, and, I did what he did in a different fashion. So you talk about changes. Yeah, that was hard on the whole family business part.
Yeah.
So my mother at that time, getting elder, and said, I'm going to divide my stock and we're going to be done. So I was out of work.
Mm-hmm.
I reached out. I don't think I called Pat Duffy or if Pat Duffy called me. I don't recall. But he said, "You looking for work?" I said, "Yep." He said, "You come see me." So that's when I got into sales for Kenworth. That would have been in 06, 07.
After the shop burned down and everything.
Yep. And then we went through about a year of tough times.
Yeah.
Okay. So I did that.
I think
emissions came out. Well, you know what truck sales did then? Oh boy, that was an eye opener.
Yeah.
You couldn't give a truck away.
Yeah.
So
that, as you're saying, leading into the 2008 kind of
that
crisis.
Transition into from 7 to 8. Once the 7s were out of the inventory, that was it.
Yeah.
And I said, we can't sell anything. And that's when Mr. Ream stepped in. John, rest his soul, said, we need to make a change here. So no more draws, no more this, no more that. You sell, you get something. You couldn't sell anything. So I got out.
Mm.
I had to find something else to do. And there was a transition there. I got asked, I sold a guy on the pipeline a half a dozen trucks, and he reached out to me and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm looking for work." He said, "I got an idea." I said, "I got a vision that I want to set this company up and haul wind transport energy.
Yeah.
I want to haul the gearheads, but I need a 4-axle tractor and a 9-axle trailer." He says, "I know a guy in Wallace, Michigan I can get in that an hour from." But he says, "I need a truck." I said, "Well, I'll put something together." I had a friend in Green Bay at Peterbilt, JX. So we went down and ordered out a brand new 4-axle Pete. We went up to Wallace, Michigan and bought a 9-axle at an hour. He was hauling 172,000-pound gearheads out of Iowa.
Yeah.
For the wind towers. That was cool. I thought, I'm going to do this the rest of my life. 89 days later, he gave the business to his brother after it was all set up. Devastating.
Yeah.
I was like, I've had enough of trucks.
Yeah.
So I went to Marine school. I've always worked on motorcycles and snowmobiles. So I went and got certified. I went to school. It was just before Easter, I got a call from a good friend. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm just finishing up Marine school." He says, "I got a job for you." He said, "I want you to apply for the marina job that we have." He said, "We need somebody with business background and put this thing back on its feet." So I changed their banking. I paid off notes. We bought a loader. We did all this great stuff. Things were going good. 2 years later, the board says they can run it without the manager's fee.
Yep.
So I've always kept in touch with my guys I was with at Kenworth, and they said, "Well, we're not at Kenworth, we're over at Peterbilt. Come on down. Got an opportunity." And that's how I met you.
Yeah.
And it was the day I was in writing up an order with Derek when you knocked on the door and introduced, or maybe you apologized for intruding. You had a generator that had to get to Pudo Bay, and you didn't have a truck. You didn't have a driver. You told Derek, "I'm going to go grab a bag and I'm heading out."
Yep.
And at that point, I said, "Now that's the ethics I like." And I watched you guys load trailers all weekend, work all weekend to keep your stuff. And I went, the energy and the effort it takes, I said, that's where I want to be. Things change.
Yep.
Things change. Tore my rotator cuff, couldn't drive. Back then, that sales manager said, "You got to get out and drive." I said, "I can't. I'm on oxycodone." I said, I can't talk to anybody.
Right.
Well, we're making a change. That was hard.
Yeah.
After that, I had a couple opportunities. But I answered an email that I came across, and I got a job at North Naples, Florida, at a new Kenworth dealership for a service manager. So my wife and I packed up and went down there. We always said when Mother passed, we would do that.
Yeah, now's your time. Get down to Florida.
So we did it.
What is the dealership? I always wondered down, especially Naples, so you're southwestern Florida, per se. Is it busy? Is there a lot of truck traffic that are...
it's a different kind of traffic. There's established groups of trucks, and I want to say Swift was a big one that we serviced a lot of. There were some household movers that we serviced a lot of. There's more dump trucks and
little,
vocational style.
Little line dumps and belly dumps and all side dumps and all that.
Yeah, not so much that, but they pretty much run 3-axle, tri-axle dumps. So there was a lot of that. But I had a nasty work-related injury, and that was 2019. I had surgery to repair my left quad, and 7 months and 3 weeks later, I was done with rehab, and there was a high school looking for a Marine background with diesel background. My wife goes, well, here it is.
Here's home.
So I went over and got a 3-year contract. Certified kids in their first year of Yamaha and Mercury. I taught safe boating for the state of Florida. I said, if you guys are going to fix something, you got to try it out, test it, so we'll get you boat certified. And I said, you guys need to understand how to use a welder or a torch or a MIG or a TIG. I started a welding program. We had kids going to welding school that first year, Tulsa University in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to make a connection with students. So I think I had 30-some kids the first year, 60 the second. My last third year, I had 151 students.
Wow.
And I think we certified probably 70-some.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I still have kids calling me, students, which is cool. Yeah. It's really cool. So when I moved back, I reached out to Derek. I said, well, our house is done. I'm getting kind of fidgety. I'd like something to do. You got anything? Well, let me think about that. A couple of weeks later, I'm not sure if it was he or Melissa that contacted me and said, we might have something. Come on up. That's when we sat down and talked.
Yep.
Because I'd been through the school and I understood how to put a curriculum together and how to put the classrooms together. And then instructions. And Sean, I've learned so much from him. And just being able, if you're not willing to change and learn, you're never going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's the way this industry is. It's all change.
Yeah. Well, I think so everyone knows, like, you came in and worked with Sean in orientation and helped just work through, like you said, everything evolves and grows and has to tighten things here and move things here. And you helped with those processes. And we talk about Sean a lot, and I'm going to get him on here one day.
Oh, you have to.
I feel like I'm saving Sean for like
a Christmas special.
Yeah. Like, I just know that there's so much, and he is truly an expert in this industry. Yeah. And when you think of someone that's honest, good-hearted, like does the job right, no matter what's in front of them, like, yeah. And that it's not even saying that in a cheesy manner. That's just the truth, right? And I think anyone that meets him knows that.
I think he has fun with it. He enjoys it, and he understands it.
Yeah.
There's also a serious side to it that you can't ignore. Mm-hmm. It's all about safety.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's an expert there. Can set the well, and so like you said, this is a big lead up, your whole backstory to what now you have a huge in-depth knowledge of how a truck works because you've driven truck, what it's like to be gone and out on the road because you've driven truck. You've been in the sales side of trucking, so you're familiar with what it goes into a truck and what helps make that truck run well. So you've got that experience. Got some teaching experience by helping high school students and understanding how that works. And then you jump back into the trucking side, and now you've helped work with orientation. And now you evolve to the next phase and like you said, as times change in the industry, as seasons come and go, and I mean that not with the weather, but with trucking seasons, right? Like you said, when it's good, it's good. And when it's tough, sometimes you got to make sure that you're making opportunities in that downside is MPG. Now you're able to take all of that, the teaching, orientation, safety, and how to run a truck and how a truck's built, and even the new ones, how they're supposed to be run. And you've went through and read OEM paperwork, you got documentation from the manufacturers if it wasn't in paperwork, or got videos, or mined some videos yourself if you had to go online and spend some hours searching. Now you spend a lot of time on the phone with drivers helping understand, because there's always a spot, I think, to hear the in-between, right? To kind of be the in-between. You're not necessarily on the fleet side. You're not trying to make sure the truck's repaired right away, but you have common ground to say that the truck's got to be fixed and repaired or it won't get good MPG. And then you're also on the driver's side understanding the situations they go through and what it takes and how to drive that truck and how to continue to improve your MPG. And as a company, we've seen success. And now our mission's always been to get 7 miles per gallon. I know.
And we hit it.
And it's been a challenge, right? It doesn't come easy. How many phone calls and hours and I think
a lot of time.
And I think this is a good episode for people to get to know you and how you got to where you are, from trials and tribulations of getting through your own truck shop burning down to you've had plenty of your own breakdowns in a truck to knowing this area and knowing the highway. So when someone talks about, my MPGs is declining because of the terrain that I'm on or the loads that I'm hauling or the trailer that I'm pulling, you're able to help understand and relate with all that.
Right. One thing I think I want to make a point of is that fuel is one thing a company has some sort of control over.
Definitely.
As far as costs.
Yep.
Miles per gallon is really something we all need to be conscientious about. Right. Some drivers are really, really overboard. And it shows. And those guys that very successful at this program that you guys offer for the extra bonus money, I can look at their logs. Those are the guys that are working 10, 11 hours a day.
Yeah.
Every day. Not 3 hours this day, 5 hours that day, 2 hours this day. So they keep the left door closed and they're moving.
Yeah.
It's time management. And that's what it is.
Yeah, it comes down to pre-planning.
Every truck we have will do it. Especially the newer ones.
Yeah.
Granted,
well, and I
things change.
Like you said, fuel, you would be naive to try to just play it off like it's just a goal. But it's an important, very important part of our business.
Yeah.
The cost of fuel outside of MPG, right, is a very important part of our business. Yeah. We try to treat that. That's why we have a preferred fuel location. Like we are always trying to do whatever we can to get the cost of fuel down. And that's not a hidden part. If you own your own truck and you're an independent contractor, you're a lease purchase driver, anywhere, whatever, if you're not paying attention to fuel, that's an expense you can control. Like you have your foot on the gas on that control lever and paying attention to that. And so I think where you were going with that is a lot of the traits that show when a driver has really good MPG, when the traits that they display to get that high MPG show up everywhere else. And when you're talking about production, right, hours of service, they show up there. They're able to knock down the miles. It takes a lot to focus on MPG. There's a lot that goes into it, getting out of your truck, shutting it off. I know we have idle timers and we try to do things to help curb that, but you still have to have your own discipline to control that.
Tire pressure.
That's a big thing that we're working through.
Using the Love's Pass, and now this program has stepped up.
Yeah. So, and we'll touch on that right now again, real quick, because I think it's a great way to visualize it as a driver. Now, if you stop at a Love's Tire Pass and get it done once a week, you get free lunch.
Yeah.
And that's the best way to look at it. And as a driver, what is the main expense on the road as a personal driver? Food. Eating. So if we can help burden that cost and we can help you, you know that you're helping the company as a grand scheme, because if your tires are inflated properly, you're not having excess wear that's not necessary. Your MPG is going to have an opportunity to perform better than if your tires are low. You're set up for a clean DOT inspection when you go into a scale, because that's very important. That's one of our highest focal points right now, is how do we prepare every driver, every truck, every trailer for a DOT inspection? How do you have to have that mindset? So it's just an opportunity, and why not take advantage of it, right? Get those tires checked, make sure you're on your up and up, get free lunch, help lower your costs, help lower the company's costs, because that's the reality of it, and play into the big picture of what it takes to be a successful company.
What's wonderful is that you guys are willing to share that with the people.
Yeah.
Your employees. Without the employees, you don't have a business. Mm-hmm. You take care of them, they take care of you. Yep. The ones who have shined, they're doing these things.
Yeah. Well, and I think the MPG one, some people forget. So our safe incentive pays out every 4 weeks, right? So it's not, it's practically monthly, but it's not. There's 4-week periods and there's 13 of them in a year. So every 4 weeks you can get an MPG incentive, and that MPG incentive can be up to $400. Now that's if you're over 8 miles per gallon and you have higher miles. And now when a lot of people will be like, well, yeah, only a couple of people get, no, there's a lot of people that are hitting some $600-700 when you couple that with even higher. I can
see the numbers.
Even higher. So that's another opportunity.
Yep.
As anyone in the market that wants to make more money, understanding that you can make more money by helping us save money. It's just, that's how it works.
Yeah. And having the tools to work with so we can help monitor.
Yeah.
And we notice what happened here? What's going on with your truck? Check the tires lately? No. Do that.
Yeah.
I won't make names, but it's very noticeable.
When they're getting their tires checked?
Yep.
Yeah,
and this time of year especially.
Well,
temperatures are cooling off. Air is going to start diminishing out of those wheels.
Well, and we've talked a lot about what it was like to be back in the day, right? And that was part of a necessary part of being a truck driver, was the tires and the equipment and making sure you monitor all that. And I love when I see guys that carry those same traits. Like you said, it shines. Yeah. It shows that there is such a big delta from the drivers that are making sure that their tires are aired up, that are showing that extra discipline on it, to what the money they're earning, because they're having higher miles and they're having higher MPG. So they're getting, like, everything is just hitting for them. Higher paychecks just on a weekly basis, higher incentives on a period basis or every 4 weeks. And it all keeps up into the right. They just keep moving up into the right and they keep prospering. And it's just fun to see the drivers that are invested into it. But you're also here to help coach them, because there are things, the trucks now are very technical. And I think some of the
really changed.
Some of the things now are not so much just slow down, right? How to use your Jake brake. How do you how to use your engine brake, whatever you want to call it at this point. How to use that properly. And some of these trucks have settings and parameters and cruise control and how it plays in and on a hill. And when you're climbing and trusting the truck to do its job, what do you hear and what do you see because some drivers are very transparent, give you a lot of good feedback. When they let the truck operate as it should, as it's spec'd out to do, does it take a while for them to get used to that? Or is it like they're once they trust it, all of a sudden like it works. It does what it's supposed to do.
Those are the guys that are successful at the program. They let the truck operate how it was designed to operate.
Yeah.
Yes, you can try to pre-select the gear, but it does not help.
Yeah.
They think that, I got to go 70. Only so much time. That's really not fact.
And Sean will debunk that process too.
I know.
When it comes to the speed, I get it. Don't get me wrong. Like I live on both sides of this coin here. I'm from operations. That's kind of my bloodline, is operations. So when it comes to getting things done, like I'm always an advocate. Get it done. Get it delivered. Deliver if you can deliver today instead of tomorrow. Yeah. So I know I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth when it's like you got to get things done, but understanding that these little the discrepancies in the daytime and the gear selecting a hill and holding your foot to the floor all day because you don't dare let it downshift once. Those little things don't make a big enough difference.
Not in the large picture.
Not in the large picture.
No.
And it actually hurt you because it takes away from the outcome that we're all trying to hit, achieving at least 7 miles per gallon in every truck. And if you're not there, maybe these could be some of the reasons why.
I like to call it the marshmallow effect. Put a marshmallow underneath your foot on the accelerator and don't flatten it out. Mm-hmm. Nice and easy. Like your car on ice. Do you put it to the floor? No. You don't want to stomp your foot to the floor with these things. You'll destroy the data. I know that might sound like BS, but it's been known.
Yep.
It doesn't help it. So if you're nice and easy on it, you'll keep out of the shop.
Yeah.
It's easier on your drivetrain, your drive tires.
Oh, yeah. We could go on and on and on what that throttle pedal costs or what it can save you, however you look at it.
I try not to, I'm not here to retrain you how to drive. I'm just trying to make you more efficient.
Yeah. Give tips. Because really, like we just said, it's a personal game.
Yeah.
And you talk to a lot of people that educate you as well as when you can educate them, right? It's a two-way street, and no different than conversating with Sean. Like you said, people have to be willing to learn. He's definitely somebody that absorbs and is willing to learn, but he also contributes to that both ways. So like if you ask a question, he might give you advice or answer the question, however you want to look at it, but you're getting information. So in your spot, you learn application uses. So people that are out in the real world using it, you're taking that in. And then, like you said, you're having to mix that real life situation with data, put it together and say, here's what we think we need to do, and let's work on it.
And it's interesting. I've had drivers say, well, if I do it this way, this is what I find. And I'm like, well, that's good information because we can share that with everybody.
Right.
It's not all written in stone. And every truck can be a little different than the next. They're all built.
And I think an important phase on what you do in your current role as helping improve the fleet's fuel economy is we always try to air out equipment first. So in a driver situation, he's got a truck or she's got a truck that's poor performing on MPG. First things first is there an injector going out? Is there something wrong with the truck? Does it need to be in a shop? Like something, we always try to make sure that the equipment is not the cause. We give that benefit of the doubt all the time, right? So we start there. Can we do something to help get this fixed? And then if it's not there, then like you said, then you start to look at a lot of our trucks are the same. So you start to look, what's the outlier here? How can all these trucks be at 7.5 to 8 miles per gallon and this one's at 5.5? If it's not equipment, maybe the driver's, like you said, manipulating the cruise or doing something different that's not meant to be done for the truck. And the trucks, if they're not meant for it, they don't like it. And
it's the automated industry has really changed. It's been a game changer.
Yeah.
All your larger fleets, they've done this years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for us, it's up and coming.
Yeah.
I'm sure as any business goes, you see, like you said, some large fleets, and they're probably laughing at us saying, hey, we're already pegged out at 8.5 miles a gallon. It's what we do. We eat, sleep, and breathe this. Yeah. But, we're still a young company in nature, and we have to prove ourselves with where we want to head. And we're on that mission right now.
Well, you've got beautiful equipment. That's for sure.
Yeah. And
and you're diversified.
I think any driver can appreciate that same statement too. We try to work with our drivers as best we can on being flexible, right? So yes, we have a preferred fuel stop, but you can get fuel where you want. You choose that. There's many things that are in their routing and stuff that are in their control, but that doesn't mean we don't have expectations, right? And now the expectation is MPG. Like you have to be a safe driver. That's just table stakes now. We don't have room for unsafe drivers. Like that almost is it's we talk about it a lot because it's exciting and energizes us, but it's really just a requirement. If you're not a safe driver, you're in the wrong industry because you won't be able to make it anywhere. That's just nature of the beast. It'll catch up to you. So safety is already priority and paramount. But then you go to the next phase of now MPG, like we said, and it's now
one of those costs that you have some control on.
Yep. Yeah, and it's exciting. I think it's one of those things that's exciting. It's rewarding because it takes a lot of work to be successful.
Well, we finally got to 7. I was like, oh my gosh, am I ever going to see this? I was so happy when we finally hit it.
Yep.
And now we've exceeded it.
Yep. And there's drivers that are kind of blowing it out of the water even. So I'm excited to take it in, right? To say that we've accomplished our mission, but it doesn't mean we're done yet.
We're not done.
We're just getting started.
It's just keep it going, keep it strong, and get every driver into the bonus program.
Yep. That's the goal.
Wouldn't that be sweet?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They all make it.
They all get more money.
So,
and it's rewarding in the day to say that they're contributing because every truck contributes to the whole picture. Doesn't matter if you think, hey, I haven't seen anybody in the office in 2 months because I'm on a truck. You are a part of the company, and we look at it like we lock arms and we get in that line together to fight back on whatever it is, whether it's the market or it's the fuel prices. And every single driver, every single mechanic, every single office staff, every single person has a contribution here. And I think if people can take that in and really believe it, it helps build that, like, what am I working for? What am I doing out here trying to get this 7-8 miles per gallon? Well, you're part of the big picture.
Yeah.
You might not feel it. You might not see it every day. You might not see us every day, but you're part of the big picture. So yeah, I'm excited. That's why I was excited to get you on here, because you've got a deep, deep story. And I think right before we were chatting about your last name, why don't you tell us, your last name spelled Bodin.
Right. It used to have an E.
It used to have an E, so Bodin.
Great August Bodin was in his foxhole in World War I.
World War I.
Signing his letter when he was shot and killed by a single bullet. And he never got the E on the letter.
Wow.
So his good friend delivered the letter to his family, and it was distributed. And I actually have a laminated copy of it. Every kid in the family got a copy of it.
That's something. So that's history right there.
Definitely history.
Well, so if you had anything that would be the most impactful tip for a driver that hasn't spoke to you yet, new drivers, never met or spoke to Bob about his MPG, what is the advice you could give somebody just listening? Whether maybe they don't even drive here, but they got their own truck.
Reach out, ask. I'm here to help. To me, it's fun because I can help you succeed. I know I'm helping the company. I just enjoy it. It's in my blood.
Yeah, you're born a little bit diesel, in your veins.
So it's been many years. I just thoroughly enjoy trucks. I just always have. And I've met so many great people along the way.
Yeah.
And although we may not get to see each other often, I'll always remember who they were and what they did for me.
Yep.
Help me get to where I am. It's all good. So.
Well, I know you're making an impact here. And like I said, we're not done. We still have a lot of work in front of us, but I know we're on the right track, and I appreciate you taking the time today to.
Well, I appreciate it. It's fun to just kind of reminisce.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you for tuning in to Keep Trucking Personal. If you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like, share, and comment. We'd love to hear your feedback and suggestions for future topics. Feel free to reach out to us at podcast@kiwibros.com. Until next time, happy trucking.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Keep Trucking Personal. We appreciate you taking the time to explore the heart and soul of Kiwi Brothers Trucking with us. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review to let us know your thoughts. Tune in next time as we continue our journey together, diving deeper into what makes us a community, a catalyst for positive change, and a home for those who aspire to be part of something truly extraordinary. Until then, keep trucking, and we'll catch you on the next episode.